All right. Um, I'm gonna start this story over. My fifth great grandfather, Scipio Brown, he was a slave on the Seabrook family plantation up there in South Carolina, around Beaufort area, uh, Gullah Geechee country, Gullah Geechee area. You get what I'm saying? Shout out to all the Gullah Geechees. Um, if y'all don't know nothing about Gullah Geechees, study history. But I was just messing around on the internet, and I decided to look up. I was showing somebody my great grandmother and where my great grandmother was from, in a small town called Hastings, Florida, right? And then it led me to her mother, Emily Dean, and where they came from, where she came from. So, to make a long story short, I followed the census, and the farthest I can get back was my fifth great grandfather, Scipio Brown. He was born into slavery. Um, he was a slave on the Seabrook family plantation in South Carolina. And so the Union Army during the Civil War, of course, came to South Carolina, seized the plantation. All the slave owners ran, of course. And they immediately took the slaves in, took them in as contraband. They took them in as contraband, but they immediately freed them. Right? So I imagine they gave them vouchers or whatever to go try to start some type of a life. But the majority of slaves stayed on the plantation, stayed in their living quarters where they was already at. My fifth great grandfather, Scipio, chose to immediately enlist in the 21st Infantry of the United States Colored Troops. Because I imagine he thought, yeah, I'm free, but I imagine that the average black person back then, they were so concerned about their fellow brothers on other plantations that he chose to enlist, to go fight, to go help free some of his other people. To fight against tyranny, to fight against oppression, you know what I'm saying? And I thank the creators for allowing me to have the mindset to see. I needed to see each generation. I needed to read up on, I need to understand, right? And I went to think about how those first slaves that came off the boat, like the first ones that got captured and came off the boat and was brought here. I can imagine the terror, the hope too. Like, I imagine they had hope that somebody was coming for them, that their own people was gonna rise up and come get them. I imagine that the first few generations held strong to our beliefs and our culture, right? And then as time went on, it got watered down, and then we accepted. See, you watch Roots and you see Kunta get beat into Toby, but I imagine that it was hundreds and hundreds and thousands of Kuntas that had to get beat into Toby, men, women, children, and everything, because it had to be hard to go against what you know in your mind, heart, body, and soul is the true, who the true creator is, who to truly worship and who to truly give thanks to. And then for somebody to give you something, right? I imagine they didn't just accept it. I imagine they had got beat, tortured, and everything to accept that book, right? The Bible. I'm just going to say it, the Bible, right? And then now in history, and I mean like now in time, we always telling each other, they always telling us that they stole this from us. They stole our culture. They stole our roots. They stole our history. But then we don't go past the history that they gave us. Whether it's history, or it's the history of God. The history of the Creator. We say things, but then we don't act on them. We don't try to know. We don't try to see what. If we was here 300, we done had 300 to 400,000 years, right? Some people say, but then some people say longer. But 300, 4,000 years, right? 300, 400,000 years, right? And the people that gave us the Bible was only here 8,000 to 40,000 years, right? Right? So you mean to tell me 260,000 years of living, right? Before anybody even thought about introducing whatever you want to call it, right? We was a prosperous people. Why would God allow ancient Egypt and all of the pharaohs and everything to be so plentiful, everything to be so fruitful, everything to be so like the technology, the advanced technology they had back then, in order to do this, and you can't even explain it right now in 2026, where our technology is off the wall, right? For Julius Caesar and the Romans, for Alexander the Great and the Greeks to come to Egypt, learn, see the work, see what, oh, these is how these people, why you think, see, the original name for Zeus was Zeus Amon, Zeus Amon, right? They respected and acknowledged the God of ancient Egypt, who they worship, because they saw the power, they saw. But as those people do, they still come back and take, right? I just want to know why, if we're going to call ourselves FBAs, if we're going to call ourselves African Americans, if we're going to call ourselves any of that, right? And we ain't going to go back and see what our people was doing, right? We're just going to start right here. We're going to start with, no. I'm not starting with the whip in one hand and the Bible in the other hand. I ain't going to start with them people. I'm going to go back I'm trying to go back and figure out what was going on before they even knew we was over there. Huh? I got sense enough to know it's only one sun. That's the sun in the sky. And God gave that son, his only begotten son, the only son he made for us, that we won't perish, that we'll have everlasting life. That same son that been sufficient enough to energize, to give heat, energy, and warmth to this planet since the beginning of time. So that we would what? Not die, but have everlasting life, meaning their children and 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 their children. It goes on. The cycle continues. God, okay, you got a child. You was a child, right? You gave thanks to your mother and father. You worshiped them basically, because they changed your pamper. They fed you a bottle when you ain't know what to do, right? They rocked you to sleep. They bounced you. You don't have to tell a child to. And what does a child do when they want to get? You're reaching up, just like this here. When I got bad babies, and they wanted their daddy to pick them up, they did this. And they looked up, depending on me to pick them up. That's why our ancestors held their hands high and looked to the sky and gave thanks to the only begotten son that God had gave us, the one in the sky. That's why the ancient Egyptians had sun god. They had a god for water. They had a god for the air. It don't take I'm probably the most ignorant. See, I said I ain't gonna get with the shenanigans. I said I wasn't gonna do that. I know better now. I know better now. And you know what? I almost feel born again. I understand. I understand that when a certain Pharaoh's son went against, see, when he went against the true nature of who we were supposed to serve and worship, then this is the result right here. It ain't happened right away. Because we turned our back on God and all he provided for us. And then not only that we did it then, we still doing it. Could you imagine what those first, your first ancestors that was captured, tied up, beat, put on a boat, sail all the way to another land? Can you imagine what they felt like? Could you imagine the adjustments that had to be made in your mind to one day be free and then to the next day not be free? And not only not be free, but you ain't got no release date. Ain't no release date for you. Not only is no release date for you, there's no release date for you, for your children, or their children, or their children, or their children. Could you imagine how I feel passing on, knowing that your children gonna endure the same thing you went through? And then them passing on. And then they tell the story about how God's people was put in bondage and they put a whole nother race on it. You God's people. Whether you want to accept it or not. I've accepted it. And I truly believe it. I can't thank. I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful for the enlightenment. I'm so thankful to walk around with my head held up high, because I know where I'm from, and I know what my fifth great grandfather, the pride that I have to call Scipio Brown my fifth great grandfather. He fought, man. He fought for his fellow brother and sister. And that's what I challenge all of us to do, is fight for one another. We're so accepting of everything that has to do nothing with us. While every other race nourishes each. Yeah, it's crime amongst every other race. Yeah, it is. People, when I go to talk, well, all other races kill it. I ain't got nothing to do with them. I ain't got nothing to do with them. I hate that rebuttal. Well, everybody kill. So what? I'm talking about me and mine. I'm talking about as for me and my house. And I ain't talking about the house of men. I'm talking about the house of all this. I ain't speaking for nobody. But the free men and free women of captured slaves. I ain't speaking just for nobody that's dark of color like me. I'm not. Because truth be told, I'm pretty sure damn ship set from over there to even come look for us. I'm pretty sure that it started off with us being traded off for this or that by our own people. But you know, once them people set foot in and get a little toehold, then they turn around and got them too. So I ain't speaking for nobody else. I know for a fact my people was let off in South Carolina. And 9 times out of 10, if you in a certain region or a certain area, you know where the slave ports was at. My particular ancestors got off in South Carolina. And I got a right to be upset at what my family had to go through. And they always tell us that, oh, you wasn't there when it happened. Or why you? Because I done studied. And in order for my 5th great-grandfather to be free and immediately want to go fight for his people, that means it was a hell of a lot of stuff going on that wasn't right. Could you imagine what he saw done to us? They had close-knit communities because they know they had to stick together. And now in 2026, sticking together ain't even much in our mindset. We only stand up and get upset when another race does something to us. Why shouldn't another race want to do something to us? When looking from the outside looking in, we look like a bunch of clowns and fools. I stand proudly with all my brothers and sisters that choose to recognize themselves as the freed women and freed men of slaves. Not African American, we ain't talking about none of that. Do you know what it took for us to still be able to be here? Those of us that are here. Do you know how many generations or how many bloodlines just died off? You know how many people died on the ships coming over and got threw over to be meat, food for the sharks or whatever? They bloodline not even here. Do you know it's a blessing for your bloodline to even still be here right now? Could you imagine that ride back then on the ships that they was on? Now the cruise ships, all your peons go on and think you done made it in life. I'm talking about slave ships, where you got to use the bathroom on top of one another. You chained up, ain't eating, only the strongest of the strongest was able to survive. Only the strongest bloodlines made it. And I'm so proud right now. I'm so proud to be a FBA. I'm so proud to be a descendant of Scipio Brown. I'm so proud to be a black man in America.